there's no such thing as a red spade. So that's kind of, where that came from. I wanted something really catchy and
Unique.
memorable and easy but unique. And it's kind of cool because it doesn't really exist. So it makes people think about it. Like, what is it? It was a life-changing experience, and it kind of it gave me reason to live. So writing kind of gave me a second chance at life.
All right.
Well,
So
hello.
how's things going on your end?
Good. Better. This COVID thing has been interesting, and working from home has been kind of wild. So slowly, well, yeah, it's been 5 months now almost. So getting used to it.
And so how
But
has that changed your daily life with COVID and everything? Were you working from home before?
no, I was not. I was actually in the office every day. And funny enough, until now, our bosses all swore that it's impossible for us to work from home.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, literally overnight, it's funny, I was actually at the Daytona 200 um, with Apex Racing and Jason DeSalvo, and we got the message that weekend. They're like, yeah, don't come back to work. So we all just like, fortunately, I had my laptop. I already knew things were going to go down, and because we had school closures here, and by Monday we were on full lockdown. And well, so far it doesn't look like we're going back till next year. So,
Yeah, things changed
so yeah,
there.
yeah, it's wild how like, no, you'll never be able to work from home to overnight working from home.
And so do you have any
How about you?
so for me, I'm still going into the office every day. We wear masks and all that and check temperatures. Um, but yeah, we're still operating. We shut down for about a week and a half, actually 2 weeks or so. One time there was one person tested positive, so we all had to quarantine, but I was fine. I never had any symptoms or anything. So yeah, it's been staying the course. I have a normal job, so I go to a normal day job, I guess you say, in Pontiac every day, and then I come home and work my business,
Okay.
are, and do the podcast now as well. So I'm still shipping orders every day. I'm still uploading new inventory. That's really what we're trying to do, is just upload all these new products that we have. Just takes time to do that.
That's a lot of work.
So yeah, things are going well. And
Good.
jumped into it right now, so we're already recording. So let's just talk about some sport bikes. How'd you get involved with sport bikes, and how many miles a year do you think you put on that bike?
Well, my first year that I started riding was, oh my gosh, 2012. So I'm a fairly new rider. Like, I don't
Okay,
consider myself very experienced, and definitely got into it late. I just turned 31. Had a bit of a midlife crisis, and there's a long story there. We might go back to that.
yeah,
But my first year, I got a CBR 250, and literally just a few months after I got that, I got a 600, and that 600 I put over 17,000 miles on it my first year of riding. And I kept the 250 for track, and I rode both of them kind of like simultaneously until I fully tracked out the 250, and then that wasn't street legal anymore. But I took a lot of road trips on the 600, really enjoyed it. As track ramped up, the road trips kind of ramped down because I was gone every weekend trying to cram in as much track as I could.
sure.
I got obsessed about it. So I was there a lot. But yeah, I think my track bike, right, or my new I got another track bike maybe 4 years ago now. This would be its fourth summer, and I think I put just under 15 or 16,000 miles on that one, just track miles.
That's
So
awesome.
that's a lot of laps.
You can't say you're a new rider if you've got how many thousand track miles under your belt?
Okay, yeah, and I don't know. I still feel I lack so much. Riding was never I have zero talent. I always tell this to everyone. Like, I have zero talent when it comes to riding. It's like two left feet, two left hands, horrible balance. Was never into sports. So that kind of hindered me a lot. So everything that I've accomplished so far in my riding and capabilities has just been through hard repetition. I can't tell you how much blood, sweat, and tears went into into trying to get me where I'm at now. And I think if I wasn't so obsessed with it, I would have given up a long time ago. But it was a life-changing experience, and it kind of gave me reason to live. So riding kind of gave me a second chance at life, and that has to do with some health issues and some things in the past. So my husband hates that he got me into it now because he never sees me.
Yeah, it sounds like you're so obsessed with it, and you've been doing it for about 8 years or so at a fairly high level. And it seems like to me that racing and riding, or just sport bikes, you know, being out there on the street or the track, there's so much to learn. And that's why it feels like you're still new, because there's always more to learn and to get better at, and to improve on your habits and your consistency with things. So it's tough, and there is no perfect finish line. I mean, you could say in your career, maybe you have a couple perfect laps, a few perfect laps. And that means usually a track record, right? That's a perfect lap.
Right.
Every other lap up until then is like not there. You missed something. You did something not perfectly right. I mean, there's so many factors that are involved, whether it's the weather, or you're on used tires, or you're just having fun, just learning a new surface, a new track. So it's just, there's always more to learn, and that's why I love it so much.
Exactly. I think that's like the biggest thing why I got so obsessed and hooked into it, was because, well, first of all, the more I learned, the more I realized how much I didn't know. The more I got to ride with some other advanced riders that like totally kick my ass to the curbing every time and just take my paint off, I'm just like, wow, like I want to be like those guys. Like, that's amazing to me. And, so it makes me work really hard, and it inspires me to keep going with it. And it's really humbling, when you got someone like Stefano Mesa just coming by you and just, what was that?
How is that possible to go through the corner that fast,
Yeah, right? Like, that kid is insane. But, yeah, so those guys, like, that's what, like, and then you have your Marc Marquez, like you said, there's no such thing as you never stop learning with the sport. So I find that really fascinating. It's something that never bores me. It's funny, actually, a coworker asked me, my boss and my coworkers know what I do on the weekends, and they think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And he asked me once, he's like, well, don't you ever get bored riding around in a circle, like riding the same tracks? And I'm like, wow, that is a solidly good question from a non-rider.
Yeah.
And I was trying to, like, I sat down for a second there, and I was like, dude, like, how do I answer this? Like, I guess it's almost like with any sport. I'm sure every sport you're just working towards a perfection, and it's crazy, but no, it never gets boring. There's always a changing factor, like you said, the weather, the tire wear, the heat, everything from just moving that brake marker just a couple feet changes everything. Staying on the throttle a second longer changes everything. It's like mind-blowing. So the racecraft on track is just amazing to me, and it's so much fun. I totally geek out over it.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool aspects for me is I've done a lot of different sports. I've played a lot of different things, but I like racing and motorsports in general because it's very measurable. You can say I did this lap time and I was better than last time. Whereas if you play a soccer or hockey game or football, whatever it is, stick and ball sport mostly, you could have your best game ever but still lose. And I didn't like that aspect of it. I want control in some aspect. That's a big I see that in my personality. So like I want to be on the bike and control it myself. And when I win, I mean, you could have a crew behind you or a team, yes, but it's you who rode the bike, and it's you who put it on the finish line or in the dirt, in the gravel. So it's very much up to you. And there's nobody else telling you other than if you have a Bluetooth headset or something. It's all just you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's addicting, man. When I started, and my husband yells at me for this all the time, taking a lap timer to track days, because for me that's like a gauge of like, am I doing better? Am I getting faster?
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, if, let's say, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I experience this a lot actually. I'll have an amazing time. I think I'm going fast. I'm like, oh yeah, that lap, I was ripping it. Surely I did my personal best. And I look
Yeah.
down and I'm like, oh God, not only did I not do my personal best, but I'm 3 seconds off my
Oh
personal
man.
best.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
there's
like,
also,
so
yeah.
then like, yes, you're like, what is the matter with me? Like my brain just perceives this as an amazing lap. So why did that not translate? So I wonder, as a racer and rider, do you experience stuff like that? And how do you deal with that? Like, how does that
Yeah,
not rob you of your happiness?
I have a good story about that, actually. I have a little bit of opposite story. So normally, it's not a good thing to go 3 seconds back and wonder where that time went, right? As a racer, anyways. So you never want to have that to happen. But normally, I would say for you, if that's happening, probably 3 seconds slower feels a lot safer. All right, it's easier. There's not as
Yeah.
much risk is what's happening. So, or you're not comfortable with that level of risk yet. Um, in
Absolutely.
time, but it's just more uncomfortable for you, or you have to put the bike in different spots where you're just not used to yet. Uh,
Hmm.
Now there was a race that I had, one of my best races ever. I think I did every lap within 0.3 of a second, and then on the last lap I dropped a half a second. Um, so I did my personal best lap time ever on the last lap with used tires on the final lap, and I still got second place in the race. So sometimes that can happen. But I had the rider come up to me who we were battling with, and he said, I looked down at my lap timer, and we were going faster than I thought we were, but it felt easier. It felt easier actually doing a faster lap time than I thought we were doing. And I kind of took credit to that because I think that I'm a very smooth rider. That's one of my strong suits. I'm very smooth throughout the corners and predictable. I'd like to be. Obviously, if you're racing, I might have to switch it up here and there, but yeah, it all depends
Right.
on how you're
Fake
feeling on
them
the
out a
track.
bit.
Yeah, it just depends how you're feeling. So I would actually like to get a lap timer for my bicycle. I've been doing a lot of bicycle riding lately and racing mountain bikes, and
Wow.
I made a little mountain bike course in my backyard. So it'd be cool to go through it and see what's my lap time, and instead of just checking my watch, or actually have it just a beacon or a GPS even would be really cool. Um, just to see and measure it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, then now then it becomes a competition, and even more fun. There's
I thought about,
competition with yourself.
if I had people come here and who are able to come here and do the podcast in person, I could have a leaderboard, and then everybody would be on the leaderboard for the podcast.
That's cool.
Yep. Just you got to keep the course the same. You can't switch it up too much.
Yeah.
So, and tell me about Red Spade. That's a big thing in your life, right?
Yeah. It's funny. Red Spade kind of was. I started. Where do I start with that? I guess back to social media.
Is it a card playing game?
No, actually, so there's no such thing as a red spade. So that's kind of where that came from. It's I wanted something really catchy and
Unique.
memorable and easy but unique, and it's kind of cool because it doesn't really exist. So it makes people think about it. Like, what is it? And when I started my social media account, I guess in 2011, so right before I started riding, actually, when I got interested in motorcycles, I was doing a lot of photography, and I just really appreciated all the like mechanics and the particulars and the details of a motorcycle. I thought they were beautiful, and sports bikes in particular. Now, I think all motorcycles are beautiful and have gorgeous aspects of them, and I love photographing any motorcycle, but obviously sport bikes is my niche thing, what I prefer. But that's because of the racing aspect. When I got introduced to my husband, I still remember, took me to my first race at Road Atlanta. And this was actually a lot earlier. This was in 2009 when AMA was still going on. And I remember that race, and it was just like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know you could ride a motorcycle like that.
Right.
You know, you don't see that kind of stuff on the street, especially not in the city and your everyday surrounding. And I didn't really actually have a lot of people around me that rode daily or were into motorcycles, like friend-wise. Like my husband grew up on motorcycles, but he didn't really have one when we were dating and early in our relationship. It wasn't until about 2010 that he got one. But anyways, going back to Red Spade. So I started the account as kind of like an experiment, just sharing my daily journey of when I started getting interested in motorcycles. So at first I would post a lot of photos of other riders and racers. I'd attend track days. Then I started going to WERA races and kind of like meeting all the racers there, and just, I loved it. I wanted to share that. And at the time, no one was really doing that. Like social media was still really young. I think Instagram, for example, was just a few years old. There wasn't really a big bike community yet online. And so I wanted to share that with people, and it took off. Later, when my husband actually started racing, or was considering racing, once we both got into motorcycles, we both started buying more and more bikes, got into track days. You know, people were kind of inspired by the stories we were sharing, and it wasn't just our stories. I was sharing other people's stories, other racers' stories. I remember, you know, when Damien was starting out, he was little. Jackson Blackman, like, I remember when he was little, his dad was pushing him at Road Atlanta, like, onto his race. Like, that was like amazing.
How old was he when he was starting at the track? Maybe 8 or 10 years old, you think? I don't know what the youngest.
He was way younger. I think he was younger. I can't remember because I don't know what year that was, but it had to have been somewhere in 2011, something like that.
Yeah.
So he was little, and now seeing these kids, you know, where they are now, it's like, wow, right? But even back then, it blew my mind that, you know, that kids this small were racing. And of course, over in Europe, that's completely normal. That's, you know, that's how you get these amazing racers bred. But here in America, I think it's a little different. It's a lot harder. Motorcycling is not as prevalent, and certainly not racing. Just talking with the general public that doesn't know much about motorcycles, you know, they don't understand. They're always like, wait, what do you do on the weekends? Like dirt bikes? They don't understand.
You have to seek it out. It's not just readily available. I knew no one who raced or rode at the track. I just knew a few friends who had bikes. That's all I knew about. So you have to research yourself if you want to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that easy of a door right now. So that's kind of why I'm doing it. More people into the sport. And I think it's great. So I'm just trying to share my information, and hopefully we can snag a few regular people.
Yeah, and totally. And it's actually getting a lot harder because of, well, not just COVID and our economy, but just so many other factors. But yeah, when we started sharing all these, and I shared every day. I've been posting every day, almost every day for years now. You know, whether it's some sort of tidbit thought, and I always try to, you know, be really transparent and I try to let my passion come through. And sometimes it's like I said, obsessive, you know, whatever, maybe it'll be whiny or way too excited, but you know what, that's how I feel about it. And for the most part, I think people really resonated with that. And then we coupled up with Sport Bike Track Time, and once I started, it's really crazy about the whole brand ambassadorship. We can kind of delve into that a little later too. But once I started getting more and more into it, and the account started growing and growing, people were like, well, why don't you start your own race team? And I'm like, well, that's kind of like, isn't that a big deal? And you know what? Turns out, no, anybody can be a race team. I mean, my husband started racing, and we're like, let's make this legit. Let's actually start a company. I mean, we're an LLC. You know, we pay taxes. We we do everything. We pay the fees every year. So, I mean, it's not a free thing. Like, people don't realize how much goes into running blogs, just running your website, how much that
It's
costs
not
us
free just to
yearly.
operate.
No, it's not, and so, and that's also probably, that's why we've been lagging on some things too over the years. We both have full-time day jobs. This guy upstairs works like 60 hours a week. I work at least 40 to 50, and then I'll do like side work stuff with my illustration or photography. But like in the beginning, we were able to like help out and provide like anything like posters, or if racers needed their t-shirts designed or decals made, like when I had more time, I would provide that for free. I just wanted to help out, and support them in any way I could. We can't afford, we don't have funds to fund our race team, but if I can help out, the young kids or somebody in need of it, I was more than happy to do that. So, and we still do that to this day, here and there. It's getting tough right now with the season in full swing, but
sure. Yeah.
But so that's kind of like where it all then got legitimized, and then Moto America saw us, what we were doing, and they reached out to us like in the very beginning. So we worked with them for like 3 years with Swahn, and just doing polls and like bumping questions around and asking people what they wanted to see, and kind of wanting to figure out what would make the series better and more visible. And it's funny because Swahn was like, when I first like met you and started like looked into what you guys were doing, like I didn't know what Red Spade was. And he was like, now I totally get it. Like, it's a culmination of experiences of everyone's, like, Red Spade isn't, I mean, I'm the face of Red Spade, but it's not me. It's not about me. It's about, everyone has these same feelings and emotions when they ride, and they have very similar experiences, different levels, but we all go through the same motions, especially new riders when they're starting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was. It was sharing those experiences and just saying that this is reality, like, and it's okay if you fail, and it's amazing when you succeed, but there's ups and downs. And so that was the whole thing, was kind of create a platform where everyone can relate.
Right. Yeah. It's a community you've developed, a community of people with shared interests who get together and feed off of each other. And, it all helps each other out with finding information. Or I found the last podcast I did, Ryan Kerr, I found him through social media when I blew my transmission and I needed a new one. Like, we just met by chance from an probably account just like yours.
That's awesome. See, and that's, like all of my friends right now, I've met through social media thanks to riding.
Right.
And we made the effort. Some of them were from across the country, and we made efforts. Like one of my best friends, Minji, she's in the Army. So for the most part, she was local in California. Then she was in Texas, and she moved to North Carolina. But throughout all that, we've been friends for 8 years now. And I remember 2011 MotoGP, we're like, we're going to meet for the first time in real life. And we did. Yeah. And ever since then, we've gone to every MotoGP in the States together. And it's like our thing where we meet up every year, so I miss Indy, by the way.
Yeah. Well, the MotoGP's not going there, but Moto America will be this year.
I saw that. Yeah. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. All different classes there. I think it's a really good thing that Moto America did the mini cup.
Yes.
But I'd like to see them also do a senior cup.
Oh, that's where Wera comes in.
Well, I guess so. But what about I guarantee you there's some really fast old guys out there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because I think the cutoff is 55. So what happens after 55?
Oh, is it 55 for the seniors?
I think it's 40. I think in the Superbike class is 55. I'm not sure what
okay.
they are, but I assume they're probably about that age or lower.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so, I know the club level guys, the senior guys are crazy fast.
It can be, yeah. They're really experienced. They just don't want to crash too much.
Right. Well, and that, yeah.
For sure.
That's a big thing. Yeah.
I gotta ask you.
Crashing sucks.
Yeah, I gotta ask you. Is that your natural hair color?
No. My natural hair color is dishwater dingy, whatever that is.
Yeah. So that goes with your
Yeah,
red Spade,
no,
right?
yeah, it's been, and it's toned down a lot over the years. Back in like 2011 and 12, it used to be like fuchsia, like bright red,
Yeah,
but that's a lot of work.
right. I bet. And I just buzz it down every few weeks, and that's like grass. Just comes back.
I envy that. I especially envy that on the bike and on the track because
Yeah,
this mop is unbearable.
a lot of work, I bet. Yeah,
Yeah, it's hot and muggy always. I'm here in Georgia and it is hot here. All the tracks we go to are just 100% humidity all the time. It's miserable.
yeah.
So you learn to be really disgusting and grimy and just nothing sexy about it.
Well, it looks good on you.
Thank you.
And I gotta bet that picture behind you. Did you make that?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a story about this one.
That looks
We saw,
badass.
thank you.
KTM, Red Bull KTM.
Yeah, we saw it on an Instagram account, and it was in somebody's office or sitting room. And we wanted to contact them, and I think it was like either the Red Bull team or I can't remember anymore. This was like back in 2012, I think, or 13. And we wanted to actually contact the artist and wanted to buy this piece, and we could not find it. Like we couldn't get an answer back from either the team or just we couldn't find anything online about it. So from this little like Instagram post, how little they are, we kind of like just mocked up our own since I'm an illustrator, and we just printed it out on some canvas and stretched it ourselves, and Steve made the frame, and so now we have it in our living room, and it's hopefully it's not a massive copyright issue, but
Well, no, I mean you recreated your own rendition of it.
yeah, I mean I wanted to buy the original, but since I couldn't find the artist, this is what we got. So we
How much do
love it.
those?
It hangs over our couch.
How much do those sell for on your website?
These?
Yeah.
Oh, I could never sell it. That would be a major copyright infringement.
Yeah. It looks pretty cool though. You just have to, if you wanted to sell it, you just have to get rid of the Red Bull and the KTM maybe, and then it'd be just abstract.
Yeah, and honestly, it wouldn't be too hard for me to just illustrate something brand new and separate,
Yeah.
for it. I definitely would not feel comfortable selling that.
It's
As
a
an
cool
illustrator,
concept.
I know how. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
We actually have a lot of moto art around the house. Actually, all of the art in my house is moto art.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have some show you some
Sure.
custom one-off pieces. There's a whole Nikki Hayden wall back there. So
Nice.
got a lot of Nikki Hayden pieces. So
And you had mentioned before we were talking the differences between men and women riding and challenges that they face in those different areas. So how does being a female rider, how is that good or bad or indifferent for you?
I think there's a few aspects that can change the answer. I mean, for the most part, I would say it's pretty indifferent. I felt it's definitely riding is one of these sports that both women and men can do equally or very close to equally. I mean, obviously, riding dirt bikes, for example, I think women are a bit at a disadvantage. You need to have a lot of strength for that. But that doesn't mean that women can't do it well. And the same with motorcycle racing. But when you go into physical sports, like even anything like obviously wrestling or even hockey, could you imagine male and females playing together hockey? Like that would just
It would be interesting.
We would get destroyed.
What if you had to have like a certain quota of females per line?
Still, my husband's 6'6", and if he hip checks me, I'm going about 50 feet that way. Like there's no way.
It's a different
not
level.
even like a contest.
Yeah.
It's physically it's another level. So, but I do feel like when it comes to riding the machines, I think both sexes can do it well in their own respect, and can even be competitive together. much more than I think any other sport. It kind of brings us together. But in general, I don't think women are taken as seriously when it comes to riding. At least I experienced that in the beginning. A lot of it has to do, like, for example, in the social aspect of, let's say, just riding on the street. You know, you get into riding. Most women get into riding what? Because their boyfriend rides, or someone, or some guy in their family rides. It's very rare that, you know, you get a female that's like, oh, I think I want to go learn to ride a motorcycle. Like, it happens, absolutely. One of my best friends actually got into it that way, but it's rare. For me, I was introduced by males in my family.
Sure.
And then you get out on the street and you start on a smaller bike, because, you know, I started on a CBR 250R because I was extremely timid, shy. I was scared of the machine. I actually never thought I would ride myself. I was two up riding with my husband, and he got so fed up coming home from work and me waiting on him and being like, can we go for a ride? I was like, all right, you need to seriously just get your own. And I was like, what? That's a thing? I didn't know any women that rode.
Yeah,
I was like, it's a big motorcycle. I can't do this. Like, no way. But, you know, so you start off with a little bike and you're like, all right, this is cool. But, you know, you get a lot of flack for it from guys. My first 2-3 years of riding, you know, when I rode the little bikes, oh man, I got so much hate, you know. And then you put yourself out on social media and it's like, hey, when are you gonna get a real bike, you know? When, you know, get off that chick bike. It's like, what? You know, and I think back then, racing the little bikes wasn't as prevalent as it is now. I feel there's a shift coming.
Yeah, there's definitely more of them out there. I also had a 2008 Ninja 250, and so I got some flack too. But the thing was, people who are giving you shit are all sitting behind a keyboard, not riding a bike at all. So it's like, okay, yeah,
exactly.
Bikes, but for the most part, I have the money first of all for a 600. I bought a motorcycle before I bought a car. I was nice. To drive my brother's car around most of the time that I needed one. But I thought and still think it's great to start on a 250 or a 300 or even 400. I would not want a new rider to start on a 600. I would discourage that. And there's people who want to start on 1000s. You're insane. You don't understand what you're getting into, really. Yes, you could ride it around safely, but the chances of you doing that are almost zero.
Yeah, and you know, and that's the thing. It's funny, the people, and especially the girls that did start on bigger bikes, on 600s and even 1000s, a lot of those females that I know had dirt bike experience. So they already knew how to operate a clutch. They knew, you know, they knew what a wheelie was and how to loop a bike. You know, they knew the more aggressive side of riding. And I think literally someone that has a dirt bike background, that just gives them such a huge leg up on riding sport bikes or any other street motorcycle. It's invaluable to me. I did not have that pleasure, so I was on the struggle bus for many years. You know, it took me 2.5 years before I actually felt my machine under me and felt almost at one with it. Like, I was so deft to what it was doing. I had to constantly look down at the RPMs and see, you know, oh, can I make this corner? Am I too low? Like, oh, it was awful. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was so
too much in your head, maybe, it sounds like.
Very much, very much. Oh my gosh. Anyone that knows me, I'm always in my head. I overthink everything. I overcomplicate things. And that's probably why I'm so slow.
Well, yeah.
We're working on that.
It's just, you got to get into those habits where your habits become automatic. Even sometimes now when I'm mountain biking and I'm going over a really difficult section, I'll think like sometimes there'll be a hard and then an easy. And I usually want to take the harder sections, but if I psych myself out, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that one today. I won't do it because I think too much. I'm like, shut up, just do it. Yep. It's fine. You know how to do it. You're just psyching yourself out because why? It's Tuesday? Who cares what day it is? Just do it.
Exactly. And that moment of doubt, of psyching yourself out, is huge on a motorcycle. Like, for me, if I've ever done that, I generally crash.
Yeah.
Like,
it happens because then you panic and then you're not using your normal controls that you're used to, or your jittery.
You don't trust
somehow.
yourself.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think riding a motorcycle is all about trusting yourself. And again, I struggle a lot because I don't have a lot of trust in myself or faith in myself. Now that I've put so many miles on, I finally feel completely at one with the bike. You know, I do things on track and on the street. I don't even think about them, like body positioning or any of that, or rev matching, just operating the motorcycle at a rather casual pace, even on track, like just, you know, a spirited, like let's say middle pack intermediate, like is so natural. Like I don't ever think about that anymore.
yeah.
But that came from thousands of miles of me going really, really slow and
Yeah.
practicing all those things till I was blue in the face, till, you know, and I could do that because I was so slow for so long that I just like ingrained a lot of those things. You know, and I was fortunate enough, I got to work with a lot of racers, and lots of awesome people gave me the day of time and guidance, and to them I'm super grateful because I got the proper training really early on,
Yeah.
instead of learning a lot of bad habits and then having to like go back and relearn. So I'm grateful for that. So again, that's why I always like tell people, like, go to track, but get with an organization that has actual coaches and classes and will guide you if you want that guidance. Because
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely. And you have your friend Jason DeSalvo, who I'm sure you have a lot of
yeah,
knowledge from. And I took his
yes,
school. I took, I think, two pro schools, and one of them, he had some problems with the bikes one weekend at Gingerman, so we didn't actually ride together, but we got one coaching in person from him, so that was helpful as well. And then went to Barber and did the 2 days of classroom and then coaching sessions, and I'll tell you what, that was some of the best information that I got that helped me get all this stuff behind me. Really, is really
that's awesome.
credit to him, because that was the fundamentals that went. The very next weekend of racing, I won every single race I finished, and the one race I didn't finish, I was leading and I had a mechanical. My battery got disconnected because I didn't
Oh no!
enough, I guess. I was at Nelson Ledges and it just rattled out because everything rattles out at Nelson Ledges. So basically, I won everything that I could have from his help the very next weekend. So it was a tremendous help. And then right after that was the GNF at Barber. So I did very well at the GNF that year. So it was great help. And I don't think he's doing the Speed Academy anymore, but I wish that would come back.
Yeah, he so yeah, Jason's amazing, and his coaching is, he taught me how to trail brake, for example, in one of his schools that he started after the Speed Academy. Yeah, so he's definitely got one of those really cool like ways he teaches his one-on-one courses. And then the awesome thing with him is if you have an issue with something, or if you can't physically do something that's because of like your inability to do it physically, he'll work around that with you to figure out a different way to do it. So like he did that with me, and that was really helpful. I have neurological issues with my legs, and I'm in a lot of pain all the time. So I can't put as much strain on the pegs, for example, which obviously, as you know, on track, that makes riding a motorcycle rather difficult when you can't sling it around with your lower body.
I would put more weight into your butt or the seat or your legs, maybe.
Right. So we had to figure out what wasn't shocking the nerves and the muscles in my legs, because once that happened, my legs seized up. So it's interesting. And I mean, a lot of that, like, I know I'm not going to be blazing fast ever because I physically can't use my body to its full potential anymore like I used to be able to. But that doesn't stop me from going out there and pushing till I literally, can't anymore. Now I'm able to manage a lot of that stuff with medication, but obviously there's a breaking point where once my body says, no, you've had enough, it's over.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, he was able to work through a lot of stuff with me, and definitely awesome coach.
Yeah, and something that
Too. I
that's
feel
really
bad.
what.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude, I
one
feel
thing.
bad because I was pumping for information.
Oh, yeah, you're fine. You're good. One thing that's helpful, one of the drills he does is going like 60% of your pace around the track so that you do it perfectly. I never thought of this concept before. It was very helpful for me. But at first I was like, why are we doing this? This is stupid. Like, I don't want to do this. Can we, and like looking around, trying to, not really going around it, but having the want to for sure. But after doing it and seeing the benefits, I can say it makes so much sense. You can't go at the next level of speed or reduce your lap time if you can't do the other one, the slower one, perfectly. So once you master it and you can at least hit your breaking points and hit your lines and your apexes perfectly at a certain lap time, then you can go on and do it faster and safer the next faster way.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I found that very helpful. Is there any current events you want to talk about in today's world? I mean, there's so much going on, whether it's the killer bees or.
Oh man, current events are causing me to have a nervous breakdown. That's happening.
Yeah, I think everybody's in the same boat with that right now.
Yeah, I can't even begin to say how many people I've like talked to, and everyone seems to be just depressed and struggling with stuff. And like us personally, like I feel like our life is in limbo right now. We actually just sold our house in April.
Oh yeah.
And we were supposed to, yeah, we got really lucky. We sold right as the pandemic hit, and at first we didn't even think we'd be able to move because there was no movers, there was no help, and
Oh yeah.
we're like, oh my god, like we can't do all this on our own. And fortunately it worked out and it was all fine. It wasn't as crazy as we thought it'd be, but we're kind of stuck in this townhome right now in transition with a bunch of our stuff in storage, and kind of like waiting like what to do, because we were going to buy land and build. But now with everything, we're all worried, am I going to have a job in a couple of months?
Sure,
So
it's a big deal.
yeah, I work in the gaming industry. So with
So
no
what do you do
sports
for a living?
betting. So I'm actually an illustrator and a designer for a company called Scientific Games, and we print pretty much 80% of the United States lottery tickets, instant scratch tickets.
Games? I'm sorry, you said
Scientific Games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And but we also manage a lot of distribution of the tickets. So it's not just printing and making the actual product, but distribution, housing of it. We also do a lot of stuff with casinos now. We've bought in Valley and stuff like that. So a lot of the slot machines are under our jurisdiction. We manage a lot of sports betting. So 2/3 of our, income for the company is based on casinos and sports. And when all that got shut down, yeah. So, my part, the lottery part's doing great, but the other part isn't. And obviously it's a massive company, worldwide company. So they're doing, a really good job being able to pull through, but it's still a worry. You still don't know what's going to happen, and
right.
Husband works for himself. He contracts. So one day it's wonderful. The next, the clients could disappear. So you just don't know. So we're kind of just hanging out waiting. And it kind of sucks because it's stressful. I feel like my life is on hold. I don't know what to do half the time. And then, of course, being in quarantine really sucks. We're kind of out of it now, but there was a few months that we were like really in quarantine. She actually got diagnosed with COVID last month.
Oh,
so then we were both in heavy duty quarantine for about 2.5 weeks after that.
And so how was that situation? He had COVID then? And how was his symptoms?
Fortunately, he didn't have much. We think I was kind of like 2-3 days behind him in incubation period from when he got it and then brought it home to me. Unfortunately, he got it at a family funeral. So kind of couldn't have avoided it. But his symptoms were very mild. Same with mine. I think we were very fatigued for about 2 or 3 days. Had some major major drainage, but we both suffer from horrible allergies. So that was kind of like playing the game. Is it allergies or COVID? We don't know.
Right?
Because, yeah. So, I think I had like a headache, a very different type of headache for maybe like a day and a half, but nothing crazy, nothing, again, we kind of isolated. But no fevers, none of the other symptoms. So we're very thankful that we got the mild version of it.
So now you got the antibodies that everybody wants.
Maybe theoretically, but they're saying that doesn't even matter anymore. It keeps mutating. So I don't know. I just keep my distance.
Everything's changing so fast. They're flip-flopping. The CDC's flip-flopping. Oh, now you don't need to be tested. Now you do need to be tested. It's just kind of silliness.
Well, and that's the thing. The one thing that we learned when we went in and got tested and actually spoke to like legit doctors about it instead of just reading shit on the internet.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
You can say whatever you want.
And the doctors were like super nonchalant about it. Honestly, they're like, honestly, you're all gonna get it. Like, it's impossible not to at this point. Just get it over with.
Right.
Obviously, wear the damn masks. It just helps. But I'm like, whatever. There's so many theories about all of this. It's crazy. I don't even know what to think anymore half the time.
There's gonna be movies made about this. That's gonna happen.
Oh, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot face palm enough about this year, and it's really sad. But like, I feel like there were parts where I was so stressed out during the year, and I got so depressed that like literally, like living my life felt like a meme. Like I couldn't do anything but just make fun of the situation because inside I was like crumbling. Like it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, and everybody's so isolated now, and like I've been I always try to talk to cute girls I see on the street or in the grocery store or whatever, and trying to do that during a pandemic is a little difficult. I was just conversation about the pickles, whatever was on the shelf, next to the girl next to me. And I had a mask on. She had a mask on. There was nothing to be worried about. I wasn't up in her grill. I gave her a few feet. And she just gave me the stink eye and walked away. She didn't even say anything. I was like, oh, that's not good. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have opened with the pickles or something.
Pickles may not be the right thing.
I'm just saying, I just strike up a conversation, whatever's in front of you. And I guess that line didn't work.
Dude, it's crazy. Dude, my girlfriend was just telling me the other day, she lives in a condo in a high-rise in Atlanta, and she said she was getting into the elevator, and there was another lady in there, had a mask on, and she was like, oh, no, I ride alone. What? And my friend was like, are you kidding me? Like what? Like, what? Like, she was so dumbfounded. She just like stepped back and was like, but just the audacity of some people, like, and just the way that other lady, said it was so rude. And like, God, what is going on with humanity right now? Like, seriously, like,
yeah, people animals. Just need to be nice again.
Right? I think people seriously forgot what it's like to be nice. I don't know if social media is to blame for that. I think a big part of it is.
Yeah.
I think it's so easy to we've gotten so accustomed to putting on a choreographed life online that I think people forget what it's like to be natural, what it's like to interact with other people. And I think people forget that everyone has feelings and everyone has an issue they're going through.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's interesting. This is a completely natural conversation with somebody I barely actually know. We're getting to know each other, but this is a form of conversation that's going to be out there in public, and we can't do bad things about other people because we'll get, flack about that. Things will come back to us. So, yeah, I might not be perfect or, say the wrong thing here and there, but we're all trying. We're all just trying our best, and we're putting it out there.
At least we should, try to be a good human being to your neighbors, to yourself, and this is crazy though, this whole Zoom and everything.
Very different.
Yeah, very different. Oh gosh, like a few years ago, this would be way out of my comfort zone too.
Yeah, and I would love to have people in person, and I still do, but it's a different conversation when you're not right across from each other, because we might interrupt each other here and there, or you don't want to say something because you want to let the other person talk, right? So it's just different. There's the speech and the stopping points are just a little different.
Hmm.
The time delay with the computers, and it's just a little
Yes.
awkward. But I would rather do this than not do it. Than not.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I gotta still ship a couple of orders today for my business, and go to drop them off at the post office a little bit later. But I've been just working on uploading products. We just got M4 performance exhaust system
Nice.
line. So if you go to my eBay store, you can see those. We got them for all different modern sport bikes, from Yamaha, KTM, Aprilia, MV Augusta. I'm not sure if there's an MV, to be honest, but there's
Huh.
Kawasaki.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
There
there's
might be Kawasaki in my future.
Kawasaki. There's slip-ons, full systems, race exhaust, 3/4, just the headers. So that's exciting. Getting all this stuff online. Trying to get it on Amazon next is the goal, but it takes
Nice, nice.
to do that.
Yeah, we still have. I know Steve has a lot to do still. We partnered with SBS Brakes last
Oh yeah,
year, so we actually
Scandinavian.
sell those. Yeah, so we sell those on our website too. Get them drop shipped to
Awesome.
people. But I think they partnered with Vortex now, so that might be another thing. So that's kind of coming out. So we'll see how that goes.
So you got SBS and
But yeah,
Vortex.
that's a lot of work.
I've used SBS and Vortex myself. I highly recommend their brake pads for SBS. They sponsored me for a while.
Oh, I love them. We both love them.
I don't know if you can see it, but they're on my thing down here. SBS
Oh yeah, right there. I see it.
and Vortex,
Yep.
right there.
Yep.
So yeah.
Very nice.
Um,
Yeah, SBS has been backing us for 4 years now, I think. So
yeah.
yeah,
And, so
they've been really good to us.
I can't imagine those drop ship from international. Is there a warehouse in the U.S. that they come from?
Yes, I believe they come from Florida,
Florida? Okay.
unless they moved their warehouse. I'd have to ask Chris. Do not quote me on that, but
Yeah, I'm just curious, but
yeah, they're definitely drop shipped from stateside.
yeah, because that'd be a lot of shipping costs too if it's going from.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, and the shipping costs now are actually dropping too because of the partnership. So I think I don't remember. It's some, I mean, you literally one set of brake pads and it's already free shipping. So
Right. That's nice.
brake pads are not cheap.
No, they're not, but they're consumable. It's just something that you go through, just like tires.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I rode with my cousin Gary over at Pontiac Lake the other day. He was my second podcast ever, if you're wondering who that is. So we rode
Okay.
we rode mountain bikes at Pontiac Lake, and his chain came off for just a second, and ended up ripping out two of his spokes of his rear wheel and just his whole rim, just like that. So unfortunately, rear rims are consumables on mountain bikes.
Okay, gotcha.
the whole rear wheel set.
So does that happen a lot?
I mean, that trail is hard on bikes because it's just such a hard trail and rocky and rooty. It doesn't happen that often. Maybe it was a little loose and it was just there kind of thing. But not a whole lot. Usually it's just you're having the issues getting through the trail, not your bike breaking too often, but it happens. It happens. And so do you do a lot of what do you do for fitness for your training for riding? I mean, that I know you said you got a lot of some foot issues. Is that neuropathy?
Yeah, kind of.
Because my mother has
I don't.
neuropathy, so I know what that's kind of.
Yeah, the doctors diagnosed it as neuropathy because they really couldn't narrow it down into specifically what's wrong with me, basically bottom line, they have no freaking clue. I ended up, I'm sorry?
Fibromyalgia or something?
So actually, at first, we thought that it could have been that, but it doesn't fit with all the symptoms because it really only affects from my knees down.
Okay.
I'm perfectly fine everywhere else. Nothing hurts. And I ended up actually at Emory here, which they have an incredible neurological center. And I ended up with one of their top neurologists. I had some genetic testing done. I mean, I had all sorts of testing, and they couldn't figure out what it was wrong with me, but we did figure out that it's actually something is misfiring in my brain.
Okay.
Hence why I can somewhat manage it with medication. So certain antidepressants turn off certain reactions in the brain, and we figured out that that's how I can manage it. So I'm basically kind of stunning my brain, which it took a while to figure it out and figure the dosage out with several medications, which you can imagine can be very detrimental when riding track.
Sure.
I almost high-sided myself once when I took a little too much medication, and I remember I was going into Museum Corner at Barber, and my brain just couldn't comprehend fast enough downshifting the two gears and dipping in, and my bike has no electronics. So that rear wheel just spun up and came up, and I'm like, okay, we need to take a break because my brain is not firing on all of its cylinders right now.
Have you heard of?
And that was like one of those.
Have you heard of Dr. Daniel Amen? He does what's called SPECT scans. I would highly recommend. I don't know if this would help you, but he's a brain doctor. He does what's called scans, which is like really good imaging of the brain for blood flow and what's going on with it. So it's something that I would like to do at some point. It's basically just really good imaging for your brain that isn't done at a normal doctor's office. He invented this technology, and I've read his book, and I've seen him at a seminar, and I've heard him talk. And the goal is to identify deficiencies or problems in the brain. Like I've had a couple times where I've hit my head too many times. So I would see what damage has been done and maybe what could I do to remedy that, or to see where I'm at, see what the baseline is today. And he's worked with thousands of people from around the world.
Where's he based out of?
I want to say California.
Okay, of course.
Of course, that's the place to be if you got the money and you want everybody.
Yeah.
He's an intelligent, very smart guy, and it's something I want to do. So if you actually have and I don't have any problems today, but if you have some problems, I might look into that a little bit. If it's brain related, you might be a good direction to go in. Yeah.
So like that's actually a good idea. For years, so this issue actually started afflicting me when I turned 30.
So just start.
And I actually have a history. The symptoms that I have now started when I was 30. I have had other neurological issues when I was a baby, and then a little bit later when I was like between 5.5 to 10 years old. I had another spurt of it. I had some mild Tourette's, which were extremely obnoxious. They were the physical kind. So you're just, you're slapping your hand or doing something really weird. And it went through my entire body. Like it was bizarre. The neurologist and my mom was like, she took me to a neurologist then, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And it was really weird because my body every few months would react differently. Like it would progress or proceed to a different portion of my body. So I definitely have a history with it, and hence why we did the genetic testing. I did find out I had some mutated gene, and then they linked that, yes, that's typically a thing where you have neurological issues or fibromyalgias, neuropathies, and all that. So, okay, so it makes sense, but again, we never got an answer to what is wrong with me, and for the most part, you never will, because I mean,
well, maybe
doctors don't know. So, but the goal is how can you treat it? So I think there was a period after like, oh my gosh, I think for 3 or 4 years, like straight, I would go and see all these different doctors and get all these tests done. And it just got so tiresome and stressful. Like it was so bad. Once I got like medicated and I could deal with it. And there was a time when I couldn't walk for a few short months. Like the pain was so bad. I was pretty much couch ridden. My mom drove me to work, for example. You know, she moved in and helped me out. Fortunately, I have a desk job, so I could, you know, that didn't impact my work. But just the constant doctor's visits and all that, and as soon as my issue, I could manage it somewhat with the painkillers, but the medication. By the way, painkillers don't work at all.
Those are not good.
Yeah, it's nerve pain. It stems from the brain. So there's nothing. It doesn't. People are like, oh, just take a painkiller. I'm like, oh, it doesn't work that way.
It's different.
So yeah. So once like I think I like stopped searching for answers after a while because I got so fed up with it and it just stressed me out so much. But it may be a good time again to start revisiting and kind of seeing if I can get out of it. 'Cause I think secretly I was hoping that, oh, my body will just like figure it out and it'll go away on its own. Like the issues I had in my past when I was a child went away.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. The older you get, your body doesn't heal like it used to, you know, and I'll be 39. God, oh, can't believe I said that out loud. I'll be 39 at the end of this month. And his body just doesn't heal anymore, you know, it kind of goes downhill from now. so yeah, maybe definitely look into some other different therapies because I've tried so many things under the sun.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. I do have hope. I don't know about for when what the time frame is, but I think in the next 10, 20 years, we're gonna have some major breakthroughs on a lot of stuff. I sure hope so. People like Ray Kurzweil think they're gonna live forever. I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, being not 100% health is not an ideal situation, and I've been there mostly with injuries, somewhat from racing, but not being able to use your body and then getting back on the track. Maybe that's why we do it, and that's why we love it so much, because it's an escape from our daily life, and we get away from that stuff and just don't even think about anything but riding. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's nice to kind of get away.
You know, I hate to admit it because this is pretty depressing, but I think most people that do extreme sports feel this too. But after a while, you just don't feel like you're alive unless you're doing that extreme sport. Like when I ride, that's like when I don't know, that's living.
That's what you live for. They
Right there
say
to me.
everything else is
Yeah.
everything else but racing is just waiting until the next race or something. Paraphrasing. And
Yeah.
there's times I have come back from a track weekend and I don't have I don't get motion sickness, but if after going 150, 160 miles an hour the whole weekend,
Yep.
and now you're laying in bed staring at the ceiling, like you feel like you want to move somehow in some way, even though you're all
Oh yeah.
tired and from all that exertion. In some way, you're like, I feel like, why am I not moving? It just feels different afterward.
Absolutely. Everything feels slowed down.
You get so desensitized. That's, I think,
Yeah.
just when you're coming off the freeway and you go, now you're in a 40 mile an hour, you're like, oh, this is too slow. I can't do this. That's ridiculous. Well, that's what
Yep.
we like every time we come back from the racetrack about life, because everything's happening right in front of you, and it's so important. And now life is kind of not important. It seems it just has a different tint
Yeah.
to it.
Absolutely. You know, and again, I don't race, so I'm not at that caliber and that I obviously don't have the skills that you do and you know and
Well, not
and
yet.
that flow state one day maybe. But I'll tell you this one thing, and you know, DeSalvo told me this once, and it really made me feel better because I was I was sitting there, I came off track. I think I was at Barber and we were talking and I was just like, man, I'm like so like depressed about this. Like, I want to be fast like you guys and just be amazing out there. I want to make my bike all out of whack under me and, you know, send it into a corner. And, you know, I want to ride my bike like that. I want to make it scream, but I'm too scared to. And, you know, he looks at me and he's like, well, when you're out there, are you giving it your all at the time and having fun? I was like, yeah, I am. He's like, and that's all that matters. He's like, it doesn't matter. It's like the joy and when you do get in that flow state, and the joy and exhilaration that you feel is no different than what you feel, what Mark Marquez feels, what that first time comer here to the track feels. It doesn't matter what your pace is and what you shouldn't measure yourself up against anyone, because what you feel is unique to yourself. And he's like, and the best thing is it doesn't go away, because the better you get, like you just keep up in the bar and keep going. It's like a drug. It's
right. Kind of is.
And cocaine.
Yeah, cocaine would be cheaper, I think.
Right? Probably healthier too. Like, knock on wood, I have not had any bad accidents yet. I've crashed quite a few times now, but I've never broken anything other than fingers and toes. You know, I've not had a massive high side yet. There's things that I'm sure are gonna come, which is probably why I'm getting more scared, considering I'm pushing 40. So, but yeah, like it's crazy. I had a very minor low side on the street about 4 months ago now. I think I was doing like 50, 55 in a corner that I love, very comfortable, which is why I low-sided. I was with some friends. It was in the evening. It was like 7:30 in the evening. It was actually a cooler day, so it was probably like high 60s by then. That side of the mountain had no sun on it anymore, so the pavement was not heated. We've been sitting on the overlook for at least 20, 25 minutes. My tires were stone cold, and I knew this. And I even said something to them, like, hey, you know, two of my friends were with me, like, hey, let's take it easy because our tires are cold, blah, blah, blah. What do? I go out there literally, and we're on the mountain, so I pull off the overlook, one corner, second corner, third corner, low side. And my friend was like, what are you doing? Like, you were like knee down, like third corner in. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I've forgotten what cold tires feel like, because it was just such a new moment, you know, after so many years. I forgot what it felt like, because on track I'm used to slicks and being on tire warmers. On the street, I really never let my tires cool off like that. And we generally ride in the heat of the day. And I don't know, like I had a total brain fart. And I must admit that day I was not feeling, I don't know, there's something, I wasn't all there. And I think it like totally translated into that. Like, I don't know why I did that, but it was really dumb. And as soon as like I'm crashing, I was just like, man, like,
yeah, not
like,
ideal.
What are you doing, woman? And, you know, and it sucked because it's like I'm going into the corner and I'm like, I am awfully low. And then all of a sudden, like I hit the apex and like an idiot, I just get on the gas a little bit. And that little bit just like flung that rear out from under me. So, you know,
It was so
I
easy
didn't
to
even
do.
get a bruise.
Yeah, it's so easy to do. And it demands respect at all times, no matter what. At any time,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's it has to be respected. And even an experience, I would call you an experienced rider like yourself, it can catch you out. You know, if you're not used to those conditions and you're just doing something different, you're maybe on vacation riding with different group of people. Just have to be careful.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and you're right. Like I think I just didn't respect my tires. Like I knew it. I knew what I was supposed to be doing, and I just, for a split second, my brain was like, yeah, no, bad idea. So, you know, what's crazy though is that crash was so mild I have video of it, and I'm totally fine. I didn't even get bruised up because I was so close to the ground already. Like,
Yeah.
and I just let the bike go, and I turtled. The bike went into the ditch, whatever. I rode it home. I was fine. I was riding the next weekend. Something happened, like over time, where I'm not right now. Like, I cannot get back to that comfort that I was before it happened. And it's not like it's the first crash I've ever had, but something, I don't know if it's because it was on the street and that mortality sets in of, holy crap, if there was a car there, I'd be under it. Just so many things. I got so lucky with so many things in that crash where just one other thing, it could have been terrible. If it was the next corner, I would have slid right off the mountain.
Sure.
Or if that car was coming any sooner, it would have hit me. I would have gotten in its way. And right now, I just, like, I don't know, I have like this fear of leaning almost. Like, it's crazy.
Which is a big part of
And
riding.
it's the worst. Yeah. I mean, how do you mentally get over that fear of, and it's weird. It's not even like I don't even fear it, but yet subconsciously there's something there that's making me so stiff and rigid, and it's frustrating because I'm very aware of it.
Well,
So how do you deal with that?
I would just say you would have to understand your limits, and maybe you found your limit that day. Going back to injuries, I've only really been seriously injured one time, and that's because I hit something. So yeah, when you crash, you obviously don't want to hit a barrier. So I hit the pit wall at Grattan in 2015 at about 130 miles an hour, coming up the right-hander where it dips right there before you turn left. Well, where it dips, I high-sided and it went straight into the wall. So I broke 7 bones, collapsed lung, concussion, hospital for 2 weeks, that kind of thing. And I have gone back to the track, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue racing just because of money. If I find the money, that's why I'm starting the business, to help fund racing. So my goal is to get back to the racetrack and race professionally at some point, hopefully full time.
Yeah.
I just need to find enough. I just need to sell enough products to be able to do that. So I did do a track day again in 2018, but I was very timid on that track day, mostly because I was getting ready to sell the bike I had just fixed, and not really.
Oh no.
I wasn't looking to throw the bike down the road, so I was going pretty slow that day. But by the end of the day, I was passing people again. I mean, I wasn't the fastest guy, and I have no idea what my lap time was, but it was just good to get out there. I think I did like a half a track day on it. It wasn't a lot of time, but it was very good to get back out there. And yeah, when I went by that corner, I was like, let's not go 100% in this corner. And it makes, I mean, I am a huge advocate for safety and improving safety. And that's kind of one of the reasons I don't ride on the street, is because there's just lunatics everywhere and I want to race. So going to the track is much safer, but I think it could be better because obviously I hit a wall. There should be at least air fences in those areas, but the air fences are a lot of money.
Yep.
So I think the solution is don't build new tracks with walls that you could hit. I mean, the old track, not a whole lot you can do. I don't expect them to redesign the whole thing. There's not money for it. So just have to be careful in a couple corners at every track. There's some spots you have to be careful about. And if you're on the street, you can't race on the street. You can't, getting it, sending it on the street, because you're going to hit a curb. Eventually you're going to, hope not, but it's going to happen eventually.
And it sucks. Like, I'm guilty of sending it on the street, within my limits. Definitely, look at my Instagram feed, and I definitely promote knee down on the street and all that stuff. And it's not safe. I mean, I get berated all the time by my husband for this. He like you, he wants to race. He prefers to race. Once he started racing, he pretty much gave up all street riding.
Yeah.
He still has a street bike, and he takes that thing out, 4 or 5 times a year. You know, when I beg him to come on a, group ride to Deals Gap or something. He actually just came out with us past weekend. But his style of riding on the street, like, is grandpa. Like,
Sure.
he gets mad at me, which is laughable because I consider myself stupid slow amongst all of our friends. I feel like I'm the slowest. And all the guys up in the mountains here rip. And there's a level that I won't cross. Like, I have my limitations, like, because I just know, but still doing what we do, like, you can't control any of it. You can't control gravel, temperature, other vehicles, bike malfunctions, suspension issues. You just can't control so much on the street, which is why he doesn't take the risks. I still feel like I take too many risks, and it's probably because I feel like I don't get enough yet. Like, I haven't had my fill yet. I haven't been riding since I was a kid, and so I'm constantly hungry. Nothing is ever enough.
Sure. And I will say, if I had more money, I would definitely buy a street bike. But I would right now, and for the last decade or so, all of my money has been gone to the track. So the street bike hasn't been as important for me. And
right.
I just bought a bicycle that's worth a lot of more than some people's motorcycles. So
yeah.
riding, and I traded my motorcycle in for a really good bicycle. I got a road bicycle, and a really good full suspension mountain bike. So that's kind of what I've transitioned to. So I'm still out there riding. It's just not on a street bike, because I get it when I ride on.
Great.
If I were to get a street bike again, I would want to get not a 600. I would probably want to get like a 400, to be honest, because I've been arrested on a 600 for speeding. That's why I went to the racetrack. So it's like, I know what they're capable of. Why do you need a machine that can go 150 miles an hour for the street? It's stupid. A 400 will still go over 100 miles an hour.
So that's a good question. And starting out on smaller bikes, I'm a huge small bike advocate, always have been. I believe you learn a lot more skills on it. I feel I should have stayed on my 250 much longer than I did. I made the mistake of taking my 600, my street bike, onto the track one day at Barber because I thought maybe the 250 would struggle too much. Mm-hmm. And that was a big mistake because I fell in love with it so much, with the acceleration, that I no longer wanted my 250. And in doing so and giving up that bike so early, I know I stunted my growth on the motorcycle. And I went back and forth. Should I get a 300, this and that? In the end, I decided to stick with the 600s because of the joy they bring me. I've ridden several race 300s, and they painfully pointed out my inabilities and what I lack in riding. And it was, it's obvious I need a lot more work, but it's okay. I made that decision. Like, I get a lot more fun out of these 600s, so I'm going to stick with this. Again, for my body too, it was really difficult to ride those small bikes. You don't rest on a small bike. You're working so hard, and my body just hurts so much with my legs and everything that, man, when I'm at in a carousel corner, I'm taking a break. I'm just hanging out on my bike, like, oh God, okay, so break. So those seconds, that half a second break of releasing my muscles allows me to ride further and longer.
Yeah, and more power would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I made the decision a long time ago. I'm not going to be the fastest. That's not my goal. I do want to get faster, but it's okay. I'm not going to be competing. I'm not going to be winning any podiums. My goal is still to get a race license, but it's more of a bucket list. I can't afford to do this, every weekend, every month. I'm not going to do a full season. It's just not feasible for me. And that's okay. So I decided to stick with a bike that's just fun for me, that I can be lazy on. With that said, thousands, especially the new ones now with all the electronics, they're so easy to ride at like a slow to spirited pace. Like, they don't even feel like 1,000 like what it used to, and I think now a lot of people will go to 600s and 1,000s for the street because it's just something they want and something that is attractive to them and fun. And you know, so what? So like if I were to get a 1000 right now, I'd use like 20% of it on the street, right? Like I'd probably never make it out of second gear, because why would you? It does like 100. My husband's ZX10 does 150 in second gear. I've done it. I know, and it was freaking amazingly frightening and awesome at the same time. And it's like, why would you ever need this bike? But you know, but then you tone it back and you're like, you know, but these are toys. These are babies. These are, I mean, again, if you look at my feed, it's all about like, oh, I love this thing. Like I don't have kids, but I have motorcycles. I have 6 motorcycles in the garage. So
yeah, it's like two-wheeled Ferraris.
Yeah. So, you know, I've like started to look at it a little differently. And I think I used to judge people that, I'm guilty of judging people that couldn't ride their motorcycle to its like full potential, and they talked a big game and they had these 1000s and all. I'm like, you know what, no, that's not cool either, because for the most part motorcycles are advertised to your everyday user. Like we said, racing is such a niche, and that not many people even know what it is. So you can't blame people for wanting these shiny big bikes, you know, especially here in the United States where bigger is better and all that. And in the end, they're just our toys. Like this isn't, you know, this isn't India or China where many of us commute on a 2-wheeled, you know, vehicle. Most of us have them for fun.
It's a pleasure.
And so if you don't have something for, yeah, if you have something for fun, have something you love and you love to look at and feel. And so I'm like, at this point, I'm like, you ride what you want, you know, but to your point of new riders, you know, depends how much experience they've had. They may be better off on a smaller machine. It crashes a lot better.
Well, the reason
You
I
know,
would advocate for a new rider getting a smaller bike is that they will learn faster on the smaller bike and probably stay in the sport longer than getting a 1000. I've heard friends, man, I had a 1000 Busa. It was all built, you know, it had nitrous, and it scared the shit out of me, and I sold it the next month. Well, that's because you have the wrong bike. Like, that's not how you start into motorcycle riding.
Absolutely. Yep, I've had those. I've heard those stories from people too, and you know, and it's true though. The little bikes are really twitchy. Any input you put in is, you feel that input back tenfold.
They're very forgiving. So
yes, and that
a big throttle adjustment, you're not gonna kill yourself like you would on a bigger bike as easily. You can still crash,
right.
But even when I was about to sell my 250, I had the 250 and the 636 side by side. So I rode them back to back a couple of times to see the differences, and I could not believe, after riding the 250 for so long, jumping to the 600. The 600 you could move around. You could turn it, but the 250 was like you just took a couple 100 pounds off the thing, and it was just so nimble. You could just turn it. You could do anything with it. And I didn't realize how easy of a bike it was to maneuver.
Yeah, it's crazy. So ever since I crashed my 600, I'm waiting on parts, which God, thanks to COVID, probably will never get here. But I've been riding my Z125,
okay,
which is
even smaller. It's like
so I have to so I have to trailer that to the mountains. Like I can't, you know, I won't ride it on the highway or anything like that. I'll blow the motor. I mean, it only does like 65, 70 downhill if I pull in the clutch
drifting a
and
truck.
draft somebody. Yeah, but it's great. It's great fun, and it's been great training. And actually, when I got that bike 3 years ago, I rode it a lot. When I finally learned to actually ride that bike, it is the only bike that I can say I have ridden to its full potential and maxed it out and like high-sided myself on and like scared myself the crap out of it, but like to the point where like I can be in a corner and I'm low siding and I'm just holding that thing up, and I won't do that anymore. But I was able to learn on that bike thanks to some friends that ride here on minis. And when I went back to my 600 after riding that little bike, oh my God, the confidence, I felt like I was one with my machine, and I rode my 600 better than I'd ever ridden it before.
Yeah, and
then eventually I crashed.
Yeah, That's good though.
But
It gives you, you know, if you can do it on a small bike, you can learn and practice crashing at a slower speed. Then you go to the big bikes and then you're more ready for it. You understand
yeah.
what certain inputs will do to the machine and how it handles.
Yeah, it definitely, that's very true.
Yeah. And you said you didn't have a lot of dirt track experience, but where are you riding the minis? Is that like kart tracks or you have a specific place?
um, so generally we ride them in the mountains. We'll trailer them up and just ride any twisty tight road. Any road without massive elevation, unless it's pretty wide open where you cannot lift on the mini, like or brake or anything. I don't know how familiar you are with Deal's Gap.
Yeah, I've actually rode there in 2011, I think, 2012. We went down there with
well, there you go. So
3 riders, all in suits and sport bikes, and that was a blast.
yep. Yeah, so we go there a lot. I love riding the mini there. It's such a fun technical road and so tight. It's perfect for the minis. Like if any motorcycle shines, it's supermotos and minis shine on that road.
Yeah.
But everything else is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, so or parking lot drills. Those are always fun. That really helps me work on my skill sets and get used to things and working on my vision and stuff like that. So
put up a series of
so
cones.
important is like vision.
Yeah. So what is something you said yourself you don't think you're a fast rider. So what do you think you need to work on?
Oh, so many things. The list goes on. I think vision is a big issue for me personally. I have consistency issues with picking out and sticking to my brake markers. So my biggest issue right now is braking, and keeping that throttle open to that first brake board, like open all the way. I know that at my pace I should be able to, and it's really not a risk. It's not going to be an issue. Yet for some reason, like my brain just goes too fast,
Yeah.
and I lift off a little bit. Like it's a total just mental struggle and fight. Like I notice if I yell at myself in my helmet at track, it helps.
Yeah.
I amp myself up. But like I'm very consistent in my lines and I'm very predictable and smooth. Like I'm not jerky or anything like that. So at least people behind me know always what I'm doing. Like my body position, like I speak with my body. Like when I'm going to brake, I, sit up, lift. I do all sorts of things with my body. Like it cracks people up. But I've had so many riders come up to me and be like, I love following you because I know exactly what to do. Like I see you setting up for a turn. I know, I do the same thing on the street too. So leading group rides, like the girls are always like, I know exactly what you're going to do, because it's like you communicate
Your body
with your
language.
body.
Yeah.
When you're going to
consistent and predictable.
yeah, Kat Zimpel actually taught me that. One of my very few track days, she doesn't teach many people, but she was kind enough to go out there with me and shadow me and then like point out stuff. We were at Jennings, I think, and she actually was like, hey, I want you to do this, for body, so that people can tell what you're doing that are behind you. So if you're braking, coming off, especially a novice where everyone's learning and nobody knows what's going on. I swear to God, like I went to follow a friend, a novice, one day, and I was terrified because everyone like drifts all over the place, and it's totally fine. It's totally normal. Everyone.
If you're seeing it, you're like, oh my God, don't do that.
Yeah, but everyone's learning. We all did it. It's, it's totally fine. But like going back into that, I was like, oh crap, like I'm actually scared to pass these people because I don't want to like rear-end anybody. But so with, I think I just lost my train of thought with the body positioning and everything. But
so leading people around the track and your body position is very helpful in being a smooth rider. I would say, if you can hold a line through a corner and you're safe and predictable and people can trust you, you're ready to race. That's all it takes. If you're safe and predictable, all racing is a track day with a standing start and you get a piece of wood at the end, maybe. That's all it is. So don't think of it
So
like, oh, I have to go super fast. Just think of it as do the same exact thing you normally do, but with a start. There's just a start, and then after a certain, normally it's 20 minutes for a track day session, but it's going to be a little shorter.
right.
Just do 8 laps, and then you'll come in, and then you can, at the end, it's cool. You get to wave to the corner workers, then wave to the fans that are there, and then like don't try to go any faster. Just do exactly what you're doing, and you'll see where you stand, and you'll be like, oh wow, that was so cool. I passed 3 people or whatever, and we battled, and I got faster because I wanted to pass that guy who I know I'm faster than in track days, right? So then you try new moves little by little. You're like, oh, maybe I can pass. I've been behind him for 16 corners. Let me try in the braking zone here. And then that's how you slowly get better, is because I'm so competitive. I want to race my friend to the car or whatever it is, you know? So if you're in front of me, I'm going to try to get in front of you. And you have to take different lines to do that. And you have to do it safely. So you have to, acknowledge that you're there. You're not going to say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm passing you now, but you just got to get beside them before the corner. Like, from track days, it's just slightly more aggressive. And when you're in novice, people are pretty respectful. It's not that common that people take each other out. Really, it's not. I would expect it to happen more often, to be honest. But it does happen, but I've never taken another rider out in all of the races that I've done.
Well, that's
bumped into each other a few times. Sure, that happens, but not enough to either me crash or the other rider crash. So I think that's at least admirable.
well, that's good.
So I'd say you're.
And that's the thing, like, man, I want to try it so bad. I'm just so I'm going to be like back marker, right? And I know that like the front runners are going to pass me.
It's okay.
And my biggest fear is that it's going to come down to the last 2 laps, and these guys in the front are going to be fighting each other for that position, and they're going to come up on me. And I've been in this situation. I know it's really bad, but at a track day where 2 guys are playing an advanced group, and I'm just in their freaking way because I'm like 10 seconds off pace, at least, if not more. And the only reason I'm there is because I'm super predictable and smooth. And, I'm worried that in a race, though, when you're seeing red and you're competing, like, there's just no room for my slow ass, going around the corner. And that closing speed is so fast. It's so different.
I understand what you're saying, but I think that personally, I love back markers. So because back markers gives you a chance to make a gap between the next guy. So sometimes I look at it as a good thing. And you might be lapped. It's very possible. I was lapped in one of my first races, but it was also a wet, drying track. And I was just like, I'm just finishing the race. I don't care where I finish. But I would also say you should demand your space a little bit more. Like, although they might be coming by you, you can always, look over your shoulder if they're coming by, or check where they are. I do that. I like to look behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I find it helpful to see what's going on, because we don't use pit boards at this level. Yeah. Take a look around, see what's going on, but don't forget what's going on in front of you. And so, yeah, just demand your space more. You paid for that race, so you're
True.
You're just as much meant to be out there as they are. And it's just part of the scenery. It's if you are a back marker, then it's just what you are for the first couple of races. And don't be discouraged by not winning your first race. It's okay.
That ain't gonna happen.
Everybody starts at their own level. I think you'd be surprised at how slow some of the racers are. I mean, there were experts my very first year that I was passing as a brand new novice. So sometimes it's all over the place. And sometimes there's riders who are super inconsistent. So usually when I went to the track, I'd know that rider A or rider B would be always at the front, but rider C might be at this track and might not be at the next track. So
Yeah.
sometimes they have bad weekends, and you could have a good one. Um, so I would say if you love it as much as you do, just try it. Just try one and see how you like it.
For sure I will. I really wanted to this year, and then COVID hit and kind of blew all those plans out of the water, both physically and financially
Yeah.
for me. Like I've been working really hard at the gym, just trying to lift weights and get stronger. I noticed it, so my two favorite tracks that I frequent the most, because they're very close to me and they have a lot of track days, is Barber and Little Tally, both
Okay.
in
Yeah.
Alabama. And I noticed through the back chicane at Barber, like I had reached my limit. Like I could not physically, it felt like my legs were on fire. I was doing squats. I couldn't do it fast enough. So to be faster, I needed to work out more. So I worked really hard over the winter and did everything I could around my leg issues, and I got stronger. I think I lost like 15 pounds. I gained muscle. I was like, yeah, we're gonna, like, well, let me prerequisite that with I'd gotten fat to begin with. So I just got back to normal.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to go do it and race. I fixed my bike up just to make sure. I'm like, all right, it's safe now. We're good. We're doing this. And then COVID hit, and I fell out of the gym, and I did that to myself. I could have, done things on my own, but I didn't. And I kind of got really out of shape again, and it kind of all fell apart, then. And I did a track day, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so slow. Like, what happened? So that kind of like flew out the window. And I honestly haven't even been back to track since April. So I'm going Monday, and the goal is just to have fun. Yeah. I need to get back in my happy headspace. I need to not worry about lap times, about any of that. I actually signed up for intermediate. I was like, I don't want nothing with advanced. Like, I just want to go out there and have fun, and maybe work on my vision, obviously, and some brake markers, but I'm not going to track my progress or the lack of it, because that just is going to stress me out even more.
Yeah, well, motorcycling is supposed to be fun, right? If you're not having fun, you're not doing.
Yes, exactly. And that's a competitive part of me, which I'm not competitive with other people. I'm competitive with myself. I unfortunately, I compare myself to other riders, and that's dumb, because they have other experiences. They are better because, a plethora of reasons, and there's really no reason to compare, because there's always someone better. But being human, I still compare as much as I try not to. Sometimes it happens, and it sucks. So you get depressed.
It's hard to get away from that. It's such a natural thing to do.
Yeah, but it keeps me competitive with myself. I want to do better every time. So I just need to focus just on like two things, because I usually focus on way too many different things, and then it all falls apart. So, yeah. But I'm looking forward to that.
You are a big Kawasaki fan, that's right? You had the Z125.
Yes. My husband has the ZX10RR. He had a ZX10R before, a 13. And that was actually the first Kawasaki I ever rode. He let me, before we got into racing and before that bike got converted, it was a street bike. And he let me ride it to work one day. And I was like, oh my God, this bike is so easy to ride. Yeah. I can totally see why all the girls ride this bike on the street. It's got a long wheelbase. Like, I could literally fall asleep on that thing. It drives itself. Like an idiot can drive it at a casual pace. It's such a solid bike, and it's got a low center of gravity. And ever since then, I've just loved every Kawasaki I've been on. The 636 is kind of what I'm leaning towards right now.
What year?
What I'd like to get. The brand new one.
Brand new one, 2020?
Yeah, I've decided that, the price range for the price, what they're offering it right now at, I'm like, dude, I can totally do that.
10,000, I think?
Yeah, it's like $999. So yeah, 10,000 for the non-ABS, which wow. I don't want ABS anyway.
Right.
But
I think they used to start at 12.5 or something.
yes, yes.
A big
Yes.
cut in price for a new model. I mean, is it a new platform or is it the same platform?
I believe it's the same platform. I think they may have enhanced some of the electronics and like tweaked a fairing or something, but I
Yeah,
think it's the same as like the 18 for the most part. Um,
which is
I
still a
have
great bike.
ridden yeah, it'd be my street bike, which is kind of like a waste because it's
Yeah.
gonna probably be so much better than my track bike, which is a 2008.
Oh man, yeah,
But
your difference there.
yeah, so that's been the nice thing about having two of the exact same bike for street and track. Obviously, my track bike has like a ton of stuff. I mean, it handles, it feels completely different. It has a completely different power band, different like it's so different. And even the setup, how I've got the bars and of course the seat and all the fairings and everything on a track bike is so much more aggressive than it is on my street bike. But just the fact that it's still the same make and model, it definitely helps going from one bike to the other.
Yeah, I'd say
So this
so.
will
Very
be
similar.
a little bit different. Yeah, it's still similar. And
And I've
I've
had,
been riding. Hmm?
I've had 3 Kawasaki's and a Triumph. So I like the Kawasaki's as well. When I get another bike, I would probably go Kawasaki or Yamaha, I think, for a 600
Yeah,
on the track.
for track. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That R6 is a track weapon for sure.
yeah,
I've
I mean,
only ever ridden one on track, and it cuts like a razor.
yeah, there's so many riders on the Yamaha R6, um, and there's so much data and there's so many parts available. It does seem like a good option, but I've never rode a Yamaha. Um, I've always been a Kawi guy, and there were never a lot of Kawasaki's on the grid. There were maybe a couple here and there, uh,
Yeah,
but
I
I always
noticed
felt
that.
like a little bit of an oddball. I've always been a little bit of an oddball, obviously, but I was the odd man out on the Kawasaki, and it was not a slouch. It was a very fast bike. And now you hear at Moto America, they're dogging, is it Richie Escalante? He's on the 600.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think it's Sean Dylan Kelly. He was saying something about, yeah, but you have another 36 cc's in there. So is nobody addressed this problem? But I don't know if that's,
Right?
I don't know. Um, there's added weight, right? So that's not a benefit.
Yeah.
But
So the new, it's heavier.
it is heavier, and
It's like
I don't know how they
15 pounds
figured it out.
heavier.
15 pounds is a lot. Every ounce counts on the track, so
Yeah.
I don't think they're.
Yeah, it's 15 pounds heavier than mine.
Yeah, so it's just different. We'll see what comes of it. I don't think they'll change the homologation to be able to race that bike. I think it's still legit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. I think the weight difference kind of evens it out. I mean, it can be a little quicker on the get-go,
yeah, but I don't
but
know if they're any faster in the speed traps. I think they're just about equal. I'd have to look at the numbers.
exactly. And I think that's what they're looking at. So,
Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know.
yeah. So
So
yeah, so we shall see. Yeah, I'm saving money right now. I've been diligently saving, which is the other reason why I haven't been doing much, just
yeah,
saving for that new bike.
yeah.
You know,
Go
with getting a new bike comes new responsibility too, because with my Hondas, they were old. They're my bikes, and they're, again, they're old. Like after a few years of having them, I'm like, if I gravel trap them, I don't care. It helps me ride and not worry about like, oh, I don't want to crash this bike. Like
right.
when I crashed my bike on the street, even I was like, yeah, that really sucks. I love my bike, but you know what? Like it's been a great 8-year run. Like
Yeah.
I was just shy of like 50 miles off 40,000 on it,
Oh
and
wow.
kind of, yeah. But I kind of wish I like saw that roll over. If I ever get my parts, if they ever come in, maybe I'll see that roll over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about riding just like beat up bikes that like that fit like an old shoe, you know, are comfortable and you don't worry about them.
You know, I
So
understand that sentiment. Um, you know, when you first get your bike, everybody thinks it's my baby. I don't want to drop it. I don't want to scratch on it. And then you throw it
yeah.
on the road in the racetrack. You're like, well, that wasn't good. Now you got to go fix it, right? But after a while, after my first parking lot crash, trying to do a circle burnout on my 250 when I knew nothing, broke my OEM rear set, which is not really a rear set. It's like a part of the bike somehow. Um,
Oh no.
and I cried. You know, it was my first bike, and I threw it down the. It wasn't that bad, but you realize after a certain point that it's not your baby anymore. It's just a
Yep.
machine that can be replaced, and they're all parts. So yes, it sucks doing it, but unless you screw up the frame or something, which that could be replaced too, um, they're all just parts. So to take the emotion
Yep.
out of it was helpful for me because I wasn't that much of a crasher, but a couple of times a season, if you're racing, is pretty normal.
It's pretty normal.
So yeah, it happens, and it's going to cost some money. There were some crashes that were more expensive than others. Sometimes it flips, and then it gets really expensive.
Ooh, yeah.
The cheapest crash I ever had, I only broke 3 zip ties. So that was,
Nice.
you don't get those very often though. But usually it's
Yeah.
a bar or a foot peg, and yeah, you're going to have some scratches on your bodywork. But when I started,
Yeah.
I paint my bodywork, so it didn't matter. There was no paint to scratch off.
Yeah, my second track bike, the one that I have right now, when I bought it, one of my friends offered to paint it professionally.
Okay.
And I was like, no way, really? I was like, okay. I was like, I'll buy the paint and everything, pay for that. And he was like, I'll paint it. And apparently it was a real big pain in the ass because the fairings were already used and painted. I sanded them as best I could, but obviously it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And anyways, he did this. I designed this paint scheme and he painted it. It was absolutely beautiful. I was like, this bike is amazing. He did such a good job. I'm gonna do a photo shoot with it, you know, before I take it to track. I literally had the fairings on there for 4 days. I think I did the photo shoot like on a Friday or something. We went to track, and then at the end of my second day on track, I low-sided it.
Oh.
And just I didn't do a ton of damage to the paint. Like it was not bad, but just the fact that like I marred it up like right away. Like so no more professional paint jobs for me. Like nope. I'm rattle canning everything. And every bike that I've rattle canned, I haven't really crashed, knock on wood. So
Funny that
I'm
paradox
like,
in the works.
yeah, I'm like, no more paint. You wasted a perfectly good paint job on me. But then when I crashed that bike again the next season, it was a really hard crash, and I tore up like half the side of the bike. But it was still functioning. Like put a new, clip-ons on, new rear set, whatever. But everything else was fine. And because I have an undertail exhaust, so the exhaust never gets damaged. I just duct taped those fairings up, and I rode them like that for 2 years, like total duct tape. Like there wasn't even a fairing there. Like it was
All
just
this duct
totally
tape.
ghetto trash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
duct
as long as
tape,
it
zip
passes test.
ties. Yeah. So I refused to fix it because it was like this reminder for me, like no, like it's a track bike. It's not meant to be pretty. You're meant to use it. And to your point of that's when I kind of learned that yeah, these are machines that they bring you joy, not just from being pretty and looking at it. And my first crash on the street when I messed up my street bike again, it was very very similar, low, small scratches on the fairings, but I cried. I got home and I cried that day. Like I destroyed my beautiful new bike, which was pretty much brand new. I bought it used, but it was immaculate. Like it had only 2,000 miles on it, barely. But after that, like now you look at that bike minus this last crash, and it is rode hard. It's destroyed. All the paint is scratched up. It's got little scrapes from my on the swing arm and everything from my feet. Like it's used and abused. This tank is all scratched up from me, moving around on it. And it's like, oh, this poor bike, like it looks like crap, but it's been loved. It's been so used so much. So when I look at it that way, I'm like, okay, I look at it a little different now. So
That makes
I'm
sense.
hoping the new one won't be like a shock of like, oh God, be careful.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, man, could you imagine riding one of those MotoGP bikes? What are they worth? $2 million? I don't know, something like that. And so throwing a MotoGP bike and totaling it, that's a big oops. I mean, the parts aren't worth $2 million. Maybe it's the development of everything
Right.
that goes into that cost, but they're not cheap. It's several hundred thousand
No.
cars flying down the road, and you see
Yep.
it's normal. How many times a weekend? 40, 50 crashes a weekend for all classes, maybe. That's a lot
Yeah.
of money every weekend. A lot of money, and I
What
wanted.
a crazy sport.
Yeah, it's just. I feel like I'm trying to fund a NASA experiment when I'm trying to fund my race program. It's a lot of money.
Right?
And but I wanted to talk about the difference between sponsorship and becoming a brand ambassador, and what people sometimes think the wrong things about it. So tell me about that. And I think you are a brand ambassador for a couple of companies now.
I am. It's funny you follow that up with the whole financial. This is a perfect transition to it from the struggle finances of racing to sponsorships and these brand ambassadorships. And it's funny because a few years ago, like I would say I think brand ambassadorship started about 8 years ago, something like that. More commonly, I guess, known as social media influencers. I do feel there's like a little bit of a difference between the two, but they are obviously an exact. I think a brand ambassador is someone who is picked up by a top tier brand, not necessarily top tier, but any legit known brand, and they form a relationship with them, and they're a loyal ambassador to that brand. Generally, we as brand ambassadors, generally we don't get paid for what we do. We partner up with these companies because for example, in riding, we ride and we like their products. Like I would never have like advertised or pushed a product that I don't believe in 100%, that I don't believe it's good quality, it's safe, or that just doesn't pass my standards, at the time. And again, as you learn more and you grow, you discover new things. So that doesn't mean that, something that I may have believed in the past, maybe I've changed my mind on it now. Yeah. But I always try to be like super honest with that, because that's the one thing that I base everything on is transparency. Anyway, so going back to ambassadorships, I feel like social media has come about with this social influencer thing. And I mean, these days it seems like anyone can be an influencer, from what's the ongoing joke now, skinny tea and I don't know, some sort of a clothing workout attire. I don't know. It's everywhere. And I hate to admit it, but it is easier for women to be social media ambassadors because, well, let's face it, the majority of people on there are men. And especially now in the motorcycle industry, only 13% of my followers are female. And it has nothing to do with that I'm a female or whatever. It's just there are more men riding. It's just fact. Sure. I mean, that's just how it is. So it's easier for companies to target women because we're an up and coming group. Generally, there were never as many women riders. I know when I started riding, I didn't know any females. The only females I knew were professional racers. Like I only knew of Elena Myers, a few local WERA race girls. So I didn't know anyone that rode street. So I think now that there's more and more women coming out of the woodwork and riding sport bikes. I think women always rode like a lot I feel majority of group of women ride naked bikes, Harleys. Harley has always been an advocate for that. But sport bikes was a little bit different, especially track riding. When I started riding track, there were no women riding track. It was like me and maybe one other girl.
And now there's a ladies only,
so there,
right?
Yes, yes. And guess who pushed for that?
Awesome. I didn't know that.
So, I mean, once more women started coming out, we're like, we need a ladies' day. We need a ladies' day. Like, do something special. And like a lot of orgs do that now, which is great. That it makes me realize that it wasn't just my idea. All of us want that. And the fact that all of us have been asking for this and now it's happening, that's awesome.
Great.
And so I think, so like this whole, thing with ambassadorship, I know going back to like sponsorships, for example, I think there's a huge misconception. First of all, a difference between being a brand ambassador and being sponsored that way than a legit sponsorship for you, for a racer, for a race team. And I know I personally got a lot of flack and still do on rare occasions, but not as much anymore. But when I first started doing this, I got a lot of flack from other people on social media saying like, flat out, you don't deserve this. You don't ride well, you don't race, you're just a noob, you're a poser, you're just starting out. Why do you get this, whatever. Totally legit observations. A few years ago when that's what people were saying to me, it really hurt. It made me cry. It made me question what I was doing. And I agreed with them. I'm like, this isn't fair. I'm here at Red Spade Racing supporting other racers, and I feel that by my companies that are giving me a brand ambassadorship, I feel that I am taking away valuable things from actual racers that are really good at it and are needing these things to excel. My first like really big ambassadorship came from Denise. They, at the time, this is kind of funny because I always wanted to wear Denise. My husband wore it. It saved him in his first street crash, and I was really impressed with it, and I really wanted to wear their stuff. Unfortunately, at the time, there wasn't much at all out there for us women, and I couldn't fit into any of their Italian cuts off the shelf. So I literally typed up an email to Denise headquarters, and I was like, listen, guys, like, you have some product, but it's not available in sizing anywhere. Like, seriously, shut up and take my money. Yeah. Like, please do something about this. And this was like back in 2011. And then I think in 2013, they'd reached out to me and wanted to meet me. So I was going to be at a MotoGP in, I think it was still in Indy. So did they do 2013 in Indy?
12 and 13, up to 15.
Okay, because I started going, I think, in 11. So I think this was 2013. And we met up in person, had a meeting. And that's the thing. A lot of that stuff is I think you have to be at the right place at the right time to make things happen. So you do need some luck. It's not all just hard work. You do need luck. But I don't think people realize how much work and sacrifice goes into it too. It's, for me, it's become a secondary job. But anyways, we met up, we had a legit meeting. They really liked me. I really liked them. And they were like, well, would you want to become one of our North America brand ambassadors? We have one other guy in California and you could be on our East Coast side. And I was like, oh my God, fucking dream come true. I'd love to. Like, not only do, I want to wear your stuff, but now I'm going to be your brand ambassador. Like, what?
Awesome.
So, I mean, I was beside myself, super thankful, very grateful for the opportunity, but, I couldn't fit into a lot of their stuff at the time. So they offered right away to make me a custom suit. Dude, custom suits are not cheap. And from a top tier company like Denise, my custom suit, my first one I got was like $2,500 retail price, right? So that's a hell of an expensive suit. So I think like then when I started picking up other sponsors, Pirelli is one of my other really big ones, Motul, like those guys, and they're supplying me with product, and people were, like, why are you getting all this stuff? Like, again, you don't deserve it, whatever.
Yeah.
And, and I started thinking about it a lot, and I actually approached my sponsors and stuff and asked, we had conversations about this because I was feeling really guilty. I'm like, you're right. And what it really came down to was something that I never really considered, and I should have, and this is something that most people don't, and it makes total sense. I mean, as brand ambassadors, we're walking billboards. We're an advertisement for the general population, not for racers. Like I don't need to sell you a Dainese suit. I don't need to sell you Pirelli tires.
You're gonna buy it anyway.
Right. Like you race, you already know what you want. I'm selling to the common person that's getting into riding, that is a street rider and maybe getting into track and all that. But the thing is, it's a lot more relatable to have me sell a product through my experiences and my daily, posts and whatever, and silly reviews, that yes, I may not have the exact knowledge that Stefano Mesa does to what front wheel is doing under so many pounds of pressure, under this much percentage of braking into this sharp of a corner at this speed in this temperature.
Right.
I'm getting there. I'll never be there that bad, but I can make it relatable to the regular street rider,
Right.
and
And
even
you
regular taxi goer.
you provide a value in your own way. I think everybody, maybe not everybody, there's a lot of people out there who provide a value, and you have what, a couple 100,000 followers on at least one social media platform. So, I mean, you have a reach, and you have engagement, and you have people looking at you. And yes, maybe you're not the racer yet, but you have your own unique perspective on track days, and the general population knows nothing about track days. So
right.
You just have a different way of looking at it, and my way of looking at it isn't bad, just the same as yours isn't bad. They're just different. They're different perspectives. So the world needs more different perspectives than just one person talking. You get to see the whole picture. So maybe you use Motul and Pirelli and Kawasaki for your bike, and those are great things for people to use. I use a different brand of tires. Who cares? Those are good as well.
Right, and that's the thing. It's especially tough right now because technology's been getting so great. There's really no bad brand or bad tire or bad product. Like tires, for example, they're all really good nowadays. It comes down to personal preference. So it comes down to like advertising, right? But who reads magazines anymore? So that was the other thing I was going to follow up on. My products that I get to review, to share with the public and use, they're from a completely different budget. They're from the advertising budget that will go into advertising and does continuously every year. Like, it's not being taken away from said racer, said sponsorship. It's a completely different platform, different part of the company. And I didn't really grasp that at the beginning either. And so that's why I was feeling tremendous amount of guilt for it. But as the years go by, and then you see a value, you see how many people you turn on to something, or you educate about something, or just getting messages from people saying, thank you for telling me about whatever this so-and-so experience, it helped me in this, or thank you for sharing, or your knowledge about gear. Like, I get so many questions about all that stuff all the time, and it makes it worthwhile at that point. Like, I'm seeing now that, yeah, like, these companies brought me on to do this job for them, and I think I'm doing it all right. Like, it's
and to the people who are saying like, oh, you don't deserve that, or maybe they think they deserve it somehow, I say shut up and do the work.
That's what I say. I'm like, you know, anyone can do this. I'm like, you know, I'm pushing 40 here. Like, I'm no spring chicken. Like, anyone can do it. Like, yes, I'm gonna admit, like I said, it is easier for girls just because in this market, there's so many men, so it's easier to get attraction, you know, to get the attention by being a female, which, you know, I try to keep my social media pretty modest, you know, because I want to attract everybody. Like, I don't, you know, it's not, I don't want to scare away any women. I don't want to scare away children.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're all human and, you know, whatever, but for the majority of it, like, I want to keep it real. And that's the thing, like, what you see, what I post is that's reality right there, you know, for the most part. I mean, yes, it's all curated, but it's not fake. It's not, you know, completely out there. Like, you know, I do have to plan things. Like, we go on a ride and something, and I'm like, well, if something good happens today, that's what I'm going to write about, you know?
Yeah.
And when nothing happens or nothing's going on, I don't have anything to write about. So, I mean, it is what it is. So,
I mean, sometimes it's like, for me with this podcast, like, what am I going to talk to this person about for 2 hours? You know, and tons of stuff to talk about. We have a common interest, and we've rode the same places, yeah, at least Barber and the Tail, and I'm sure other tracks as well. So, it's
Mid-Ohio?
Mid-Ohio, I've been there. Nelson, Grattan, there's a lot of them.
Not been there yet.
Haven't been to Grattan?
No, I've heard about it though.
Tough one.
I hear it's fun.
They all have their own unique challenges.
Yes, for sure.
So hey, let's try to wrap this up a little bit. Would you believe we're already over 2 hours?
Holy crap. I told you I can talk.
No problem. I love it. So where can people find you online, and where are you out there?
My biggest social media feed is Instagram. Like, that's the one that I post at all the time, and that's Red Spade, plain and simple. I also have a Facebook page, but it's pretty much that. You know, same stuff goes on there. We do have a website, redspaderacing.com. I try to post blogs on there. Haven't been as active lately, but there's a lot of useful resources on there too, like track pack lists, you know, and then stuff, just articles about track riding, you know, if it's your first time or how to prep for it, stuff like that. I just, you know, try to focus more on the newer riders, since, you know, those are the guys and girls that really need the information. So,
okay. So it's a good resource there. And are you a YouTuber or a vlogger or anything?
I do have a YouTube channel, same thing, Red Spade. Unfortunately, I'm not a vlogger, so I don't talk when I ride. I actually don't even listen to music when I ride. I ride in silence. But I do post a ton of riding videos. Like, I'll do montages with music for like riding, you know, around on all of our beautiful roads here or track. I think my husband's even thrown up some of his races on there in a separate section. But yeah, definitely lots of random stuff on there, all riding. Yeah, unfortunately, you won't hear me talk. Or fortunately.
Yeah. Have to hear you on another podcast some other day for that.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I just have some work to do with my editing now, and I'll probably post it sometime next week or so.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Love talking motorcycles with people.
You're very welcome, and I'll talk to you very soon. Have a good day.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.